the people in the room, but for those who don't know, like Coach said, Matt Dugan with Colby College. I've been at Colby for about 5 years now. Came in as the running backs coach, coached the O-line now, and was the offensive coordinator for this past year. All right, so let's share my screen here and get the presentation going. All right. All right, guys. So gap run for us is, we have our run broken down into a few different families: zone run, gap run, and pin and pull. Just to really kind of break it down as rudimentary as possible. And gap run for us over the last couple of years has just been really, really growingly successful. We've considered ourselves more of a zone team the 5 years that I've been here, but we've just had so much more success as a gap run team, and something we're probably going to feature more of going forward. So why gap run for us? It's a mentality. It's a physical downhill play, and it allows our guys to just be super, super aggressive. They can demolish and hunt. Hunt is the really big word specifically for our pullers. Guys who are pulling a kick out, guys who are pulling to wrap. You can talk about, if he has this leverage, you take this leverage, and vice versa. But really, it's go hunt that guy. Go kick his ass wherever he is. You get him out so we can run there. And then it's a mentality of, run it when we want to and run it when we have to. Meaning, we can run the ball when we want to, when they don't know if we're going to run or pass, or if you're in a 4-minute drill at the end of the game and you need to run the ball and everybody in the stadium knows that the ball is being run, to still be able to run the ball. That's how we finished our Bowdoin game this year. Our first night game in program history, they knew we were running the ball. And we ran the ball really, really well in the fourth quarter. And our last offensive play was a 26-yard rushing touchdown. Compared to zone, at least the way that we teach them, it is so much easier, I think, for our players to understand how we are blocking up a gap run versus a zone run. There's so many less variables versus different fronts. Because I think anytime you're running a zone scheme versus different fronts, different movements by different defenders, it adds into different rules for the guys. So a gap run scheme is pretty much, you kind of have your landmark of where your block is going, and you go from there. And whatever kind of crosses your path, you take it. And it's worked out really well for us, and it's a lot easier for them. The point or the key linebacker, whatever you call it, is locked front side. The way we work our zone scheme, the key linebacker can kind of bounce around based off what the defense is doing. And that can be a struggle for the center sometimes to ID. Rules stay very consistent across the different defenses, and across our 3 gap run concepts: 1 back power, 2 back power, and counter. We had 12 different run calls. So an average of 4 different variations last year, being able to differentiate the run scheme across those different concepts. And then just a look at our success the last couple of years with our gap run, just under 5 yards a carry this past year, and that was up from 4.5 the year before. And so how we use it, I touched on this a little bit at the front end. The 3 primary concepts of 1 back power, 2 back power, and counter. Each of those all have their own different variations within them. We install and teach them versus all fronts, primarily all the fronts that we're going to see throughout the year. And then the variations. We like to tag things versus different fronts. A lot of what I'll show film on today is, when we're playing a true odd front and what we call an Okie front as opposed to an even front, we may want to run power a little bit differently. So we throw in a tag word to help us either gain a bonus number or give us a different angle on the block. And so that's, like it says there, most of our tags are against odd fronts. So I'll start with 1 back power. So for us, anything that starts with a 2 is in our gap run. And then we are a true even numbers to the right, odd numbers to the left operation. So any run to the right is an even number, any run to the left is an odd number. So our 1 back power is exactly what it says. It's 1 back in the backfield. It's not your true 2 back power with a kick out from a fullback. We'll get to that in a little bit. But we want to be able to still run power from a 1 back alignment. So starting from the outside in, so we can kind of get the receiver stuff out of the way. Any run that we have inside of the box, and we include the receivers in that too, we tell them they have what we call dig rules, where they're trying to dig out a defender that is inside of them until they can't anymore. And if they can't, then they fall back and get their eyes back outside of the corner, right? We want to make corners play the run, not safeties, right? Safeties are way more apt to play the run than what corners are, okay? And so now just taking a look at, as we slide into the box here, again, we identify, we call him the key linebacker. I know some people call him the Mike, some people call him the point. For us, it's that first linebacker in the box, play side. And luckily for us, with how we teach our gap, that is consistent across all gap schemes and all fronts. That's where that guy is at all times, okay? So starting with the tight end over to the front side, the tight end in our one back power, he's responsible for the defensive end wherever he is, okay? So whether he is a 6-eye or whether he is a 9 technique, he's responsible to cancel that guy out, okay? Easier with a 9 because he can just drive him out. If he's a 6-eye, like the drawing on the right, he wants to try to dig that guy out and try to get inside leverage to drive him out, okay? Working now to the front side, tackle and guard, true down gap scheme, right? Down inside B gap for the tackle, down inside A gap for the guard, okay? So they're going to communicate where that defender is and what type of combination block they're going to be able to use. So here with a B gap defender, the 3 technique on the left, they're going to make a gate call, so guard and tackle, and they're working for the minus side of the key. So they're working for -1, which in this case is the Mike. Center has backside A to backside B. So here with the 2-eye, he's back on the 2-eye. The tackle has backside B to backside C. So he's going to work what we call gap, hinge, surge technique. So he's going to gap down to protect against any B-gap run through, whether it's a defensive lineman or a linebacker. And then he is going to hinge off that inside foot and surge back out to the D end. Don't want to give that guy a free play. And then looking at it on the right side, still have a gate block over here between the guard and the tackle, up to -1. The center now is back on the 3 technique, and he can now make what we make a Malachi crunch call. And for some of the older coaches in the room, this is a call from Happy Days back in the day from the Malachi brothers when they used to crash their cars into one another or sandwich a guy in between. So now that tells the tackle, we're going to wedge this guy. We're going to vice him initially to make sure we take care of the 3 before we hinge back out here from the tackle spot. Our running back, and then we'll move on to some film. Our running back has an aiming point of the inside leg of the play side guard. So that's going to set him downhill initially. He will end up in the inside hip of the pulling guard. We really preach patience for these guys, and unfortunately you'll see on film that we probably didn't do a good enough job of that last year. Guys just being too wide, too aggressive, and kind of not letting things unfold as they get through their mesh. And so we actually didn't run a ton of 2021 this year. We ran it mainly, it'll be the next tag you see with a money tag on it, and that's best versus an odd front. But we just didn't run a whole ton of 2021 this year. So we'll get it from the tight here. We motion over a tackle just to go to a heavy set. So we shift him over. And this is actually our Kennebunk connection from a couple years ago. Trevon Bradford, who's graduating this year from Kennebunk, and then Shane Normando, who graduated last year and actually coached our running backs this year. Okay, so now we're running our 2021 versus an even front. We identify our key linebacker. There's the play side linebacker in the box. Okay, we're running it now versus the 9. So this is how we want to run it versus the 9. So now we can take our tight end or our over tackle in this case and eliminate the 9. We can now gate this 3 technique back to -1. We're back on the 2-eye or the gap player in the backside A gap. Guard is pulling tight for the key. And then now our our tight end backside who's overtaking the tackle rules hinges down to protect B gap before surging back up. And we're running this one from under center. Anything we run from under center, our quarterback is opening up to the call side. It's a really nice aiming point by our running back here. This was an all-conference kid for us a couple of years ago in 2018. So he does a nice job hitting it downhill. It's really a physical strength issue with our front side guard there, 72. They want to work their combination on the angle to where the defender is, right? So they want to work on the angle to where the defender is, and he just ends up getting pushed too far down inside, which is a lower body strength issue. But he now wants to get his pad level down and work to drive vertical on this thing so they can kind of try to drive that defensive tackle right into the lap of the linebacker. Ultimately, he makes a good decision of when he does get pushed off. He goes and finds work and gets himself downhill. But it's a really nice hit by the running back. The guard should just stay thick through that defensive tackle, and we would have 2 for 2 on the 3 technique and the defensive the linebacker. Really nice job by our guard. That's hunting the guy right there. That's inside out. That's an all-conference linebacker from a couple of years ago. We got one more shot of 2021. We shift again to go to a heavy set. Now we end up with a 6-eye. So we want to try to dig this thing out on our one back power, right? Because we're trying to run this thing A gap. Okay, we tell this guy to try to dig him out. If you can't wash him, and then the guard and the running back will have to bounce outside of it with a little bit of an onside adjustment. So he doesn't do a great job of trying to dig this thing out. He tries to base block it. He ends up driving this thing down, but it's a little bit too late, and the guard isn't really able to get himself around. It's also awful by the running back. I don't know why he is so flat here. So he needs to deepen his alignment a little bit, have a little bit more patience, because he ultimately has space right here because we get a really good gate block front side to be able to fit this thing in. And now with like a better job from 72 here, as you're pulling your way through on the way for the key linebacker, if there's any trash in the hole, you got to blow it up. So he should be blowing up through 90's shoulder right now, which should allow the running back to be able to hit this thing inside and take the weak shoulder, a number one in the B, C gap-ish area. Don't love the footwork by the left guard, just kind of hops into it, but it's a really nice job being aggressive by the left tackle there, because what he's doing is he is demolishing the front side and delivering this guy into the A gap for the guard. Allow the guard to overtake, so now the tackle can climb to -1. Don't like the center. I do my best to always coach this out of him. He's undersized. He's probably about 240. So he cuts a little bit too much on inside run because he doesn't have a ton of confidence in his physical strength. And then our gap hinge backside from the tight end, who does a decent job for really not getting a ton of work at it. So one back power for us, not a very useful play for us in the last couple of years. Probably only ran it about 10 times in 2018, didn't run it at all last year. Something we want to be better at. For us, if we think it comes with having a guy at tight end that can do the type of things that you want him to do, can be a big physical kid. We just haven't felt like we've had that the last couple of years. All right, 2021 money. This is one we've used a lot more. So money, sorry guys. Money for us stands for man on end. So now it becomes a bit of a man scheme front side for the tight end and the tackle. We can run it versus an even front. Love it best versus an odd front. And if we were to run 2021 without a money tag and an odd front is presented, our guys know to make a money call because it now becomes like this bottom left drawing. Okay, so I'll start up in the even front drawings up top, and then we'll get down to the bottom because that's really the true essence of the play. So if we run money versus an even front, it makes it a man concept for the front side. Okay, so we ran this, we'll see a clip here versus Middlebury from a couple years ago, which is why we ran it, because we felt the will of the backside linebacker was so far gone that we could just man it front side, and that guy wouldn't be able to make a play until we were 6 yards down the field. So once the money call is made, it now tells the tackle he's man on the end, and the tight end, he is released in D gap for first run support. And this now makes the guard also man responsibility because the tackle's man responsibility. So whether that defensive tackle is a 3 technique or a 2-eye, he has to take him wherever he is. So like you see in this left drawing right here, he's taking that 3 technique and man responsibility. Not much changes on the backside. Guard's back, center's back, guard's pulling for the key. Guard has a little more awareness of where the defensive tackle is front side now. If he's a 3 technique, he's trying to fit this thing through the A gap for the key. If he is a 2-eye, like on the right drawing over here, he will wrap tight around the guard for the key, and then the tackle technique remains the same. Running back has the exact same footwork, path, read as 2021. Then now on the bottom here versus an odd front, which is how we want to run this play, just because I think it gets, if you try to run true 2021 versus an odd front, that's where it just kind of gets a little bit too confusing for our guys. So we just tag it with money and let them know, hey, if we run 2021 versus an odd front, just make a money call. Because now it still induces the man principles on the front side, but what it allows us to do is still get more of a gap type look with the center and the guard, is they are now what we call caging this thing back to -1. So still have our man responsibilities here with what we call lane blocks. So the tackle makes a lane call, tight end makes a lane call, and then everything else remains the same. So here it is versus Middlebury from 2018. And so we ran this, like I said, because 44 is so far outside of the box. We just felt that if we ran this thing to the right, that by the time this guy got there, that he was going to be less of an issue than 29 as the run filler here. So we wanted to take care of 29 with the tight end and let this guy be the free runner backside. Not the greatest play versus even, because you are ultimately just down a guy. You're leaving a box defender for potentially a secondary defender. We just felt it was a good play for us this week and just like it better versus odd. So we get the double man on the front side. I think our right guard has a little bit of a mental error right here, as he looks like he thinks he has help from the front side tackle, because he should be a lot more vertical on this tight 2I here as opposed to flat. Because he wants to down block this guy and keep him in this gap. This kid was one of the best defensive linemen in our league the last couple of years, so that's a tough task for him. He needs to take that guy and keep him in the gap. Keep the defensive lineman in the gap that they're at. Really nice job by the back. Again, tight downhill. There it is through the inside hip of the guard. Okay, guard, look to hunt that guy. Don't worry about the leverage, right? Just go knock him on his ass. We'll take care of everything later. But if we get a better job from the front side guard here, we may be able to keep that thing potentially a little bit tighter and hit it downhill. And so it ends up actually becoming the backside safety who fits in, which is obviously another issue we got to take care of with play action. So this is, I think, the last one versus an even front, and then we'll get to it versus an odd front, which is how we want to run it. So exact same look. We're in the red zone here, so 29 is now tighter. So this is actually probably a better time for us to be able to run it, just because 8 is definitely frozen up here. Hold on. 8 is definitely going to take 29, because 29 is definitely not a third field defender, half field defender, quarter field defender. He's a box run player essentially. So 59 is the one who screws this play. He gets a stalemate there, no movement from our right guard. Because if we get another 10 inches of movement and we're able to pull the guard run inside out, there's the hole for the running back for him to be able to hit. Because our tackle's in good shape with good hand position. Our center's in good body position. He's just fighting a losing battle from a size perspective. But it's really one block that kind of screws us, and it's a second step issue. Doesn't quite get his right foot in the ground, and a pad level. But it's 5'11" versus 6'7". So he's fighting a little bit of a battle there, but has to work to get his pad level down. And then still dig rules there for the receivers, trying to get to an inside defender, linebacker, DB, anybody that's inside of them until they can. Okay, so now versus Williams, and I apologize for the film being a little shaky. I think it was windy this day. So now this is how we want to run the play, okay? And yes, it's 2nd and 26 right now, so of course it's a good time to be able to run the ball because they're probably not bringing the house, and they're probably backing off a little bit. But just to help illustrate, this is a positive play for us. Running 20 money here. 45 is our key. 17 is -1. Money telling us man principles. So tackles man on. And now the tight end is man on what we call the alley defender, the D-gap defender, who there is another guy tighter than 16. 16 is the safety, but he has great leverage and great space to be able to go block that guy. We now get the cage back to -1. Nice tight pull inside of the tackle for the key. Protect the B-gap out of the tackle and surge back out to 54. So we went same side with the running back here. When we go same side with the running back in our gap scheme, except for counter, which we'll get to, we want him to stay on the same side. So we want him to stay on this side of the midline. So if the midline is straight down the crotch of the center on the quarterback, we don't want him crossing over to the other side. So we want him to hug this thing tight before he then winds back to his original alignment. And we try to screw around with teams based off where the back is, because like Williams is a huge blitz the back type team. So we want them to be able to blitz into it to be able to crease them. Okay, let's get a better look here versus more of a normal down and distance. So now it's 2nd and 6. Okay, so still in an odd front here. There's a head up 4 technique in front of 45 right there. They actually shade the 1 here, which they do, but it doesn't really change much for us. Just makes it probably an easier block for us to work back to 17. And now 25 is truly involved. So this is where the man concept comes in for us, where the tight end's not chasing him somewhere way down the field. We're canceling those 2 guys out with lane blocks, caging back to 17, hold tight for 45, gap down, protect against the tightest of the two. Protect against the tightest of the two, okay? If this guy walked up, and I'll talk about this a little more in two-back power, okay? We do protect that based on a game plan, a certain game plan basis. So sometimes these guys off the backside, they're kind of just soft edge players, and there'll be times where we say we don't want to worry about them if they're backside. But then there's sometimes where teams really bring it and try to bend hard. If that happens in a specific game plan, we'll make a blunt call, and what that means is the guard will be down on the nose, the center is back to the D end, the tackle helps secure the D end, and then surges back out to that wide rusher number 48 right there. We do not make a blunt call, I don't think, in this case. Yep, good. Good cage back to -1 right here. Again, it's easier with the one technique with the left guard right here, climbing to 17. Really good footwork by the front side tackle. Williams is a big slant and angle team, so he's patient with his footwork, gets his first 2 steps on the ground, washes that down once he decides he's going inside. Also has to tell with this guy with his body demeanor and how his feet are aligned that there's a good chance he's their forced defender off the edge, so he can short scoop down inside. And again, a blitz the back type team, right? So now they're blitzing the back, and this is what we wanted, to be able to crease them. Not the most physical pull by Fit 72 right here, but what I love about this is his technique from the standpoint of, I always give the coaching point of the side you pull to is the side you want to hit with. So if you're pulling left, you ultimately want to try to hit with your left arm, because the running back wants to try to hit that thing in your inside hip. Really good hit by the running back. Also feel that same side alignment helps keep them tighter on their aiming point as opposed to when they're backside. Okay, spin through just a couple more monies, then move on to our one-back trap. Very similar alignment. Nose is on a 0 shade now, though, and they're in true 4 eyes. So now it becomes like a down block for the tackle initially. But again, really good footwork and patience by our front side tackle of him stepping down to try to down block. He squares him up, and then now he's able to drive him out, because ultimately he's trying to protect the aim point, right? He's trying to protect the aim point of where we're trying to run the ball in the A gap to out. Again, leverage not being a huge concern from our guard. Again, would like him to be a hell of a lot more physical against a very good linebacker in our league, but don't want to tell him you need to get this type of leverage because he has this leverage. Just go hunt him, go get him, let the running back make his cut and make the proper decision. All right, we'll skip through monies. They're all pretty much the same. We'll get to our trap. All right, so we have 2 different traps that we run. One includes a tight end and one doesn't. Now, this one is relatively specific to one team in our league. We run it a lot versus Wesleyan, just because of the type of box that they play when you go 10 personnel. Specifically, if you go 2x2 and you stack the receivers wide out, they give you essentially like a 5-man box with the overhangs kind of flirting inside and out. So now 2021 Beaver for us, the running back's drawing is actually a little bit too wide here. His aiming point's now the front side leg of the center. We have taught this for the tackles one specific way. We may change it moving forward. You'll see it on film. Right now, the tackle's responsibility, and again, our guys know that this is primarily a Wesleyan play. Our guys, they're punching through the inside shoulder of the defensive end, and they're working their way up to try to box the Will and the Sam on the left drawing here out of the box. If the D end gives them fighting pressure, they stay locked on the D end, okay? The center is back on the 2-eye. We give them the freedom to be able to make what we call an Oscar call, O for opposite, based off where the 3 technique is. We want to trap the 3 technique. So the guard's back on, the center's back on the 2-eye. The guard veers down inside for the key linebacker, who's the Mike in this situation, and the guard is a tight pull for trap. We're going to kick that thing inside out. If it was flipped the other way, then they would make the Oscar call, and the right guard would become the kick out on the 3 technique. On the right, I have it drawn versus an odd front. We have not run this versus an odd front, but just a way to be able to run it if we wanted to run it versus an odd front. So just a couple looks at it, and then we'll get to our one-back trap, which we just put in late last year, our second to last game, and something we may be able to run more of as we include the tight end versus a 6-man box. So we tighten the running back up here just because we want this to be a really quick play for him to get downhill because it's going to happen pretty quickly in front of him. So he gets really tight with his alignment. We had a 1 shade now to the backside, 3 technique here. So even though this is 20 beaver, so this play is going right, so technically the left guard should be pulling, they make an Oscar call because of the 3 technique. So now the left guard veers down inside, gets to the key linebacker. We get the kick out, trap block from the guard on the backside. Center's back on the 1, which is a much tougher job for him than it would be if it was a 2-eye. And then you see our tackle techniques. They're trying to get hands on if those guys are tight. We tell them if they're outside, like more than a man outside of your framework, then you can kind of just climb up right now and work to get inside leverage on those outside linebackers. Because again, this is a quick hitter. You know, we're not going to dominate every single block that we're on because we're really only trying to block these 3 guys inside and hopefully pick off second-level defenders with our tackles. This is our biggest run of the game here. We rip off about 40 yards right here. There's a really good job by 67, was a freshman for us this year. This was our season opener. This is his first collegiate start in his first game from Maryland. Does a great job. He's a really good puller of hitting low to high, unlocks his hips, runs, and where does he finish? He finishes inside, right? So that hole is created because of him and how he finishes inside. The side he pulls to is the side he hits with. So again, just a quick hitter. It opens up very quickly. Running back actually works a little bit too far off the midline, has to make kind of an unnecessary cut, and then is able to just work right up the hash. Receivers working, getting downfield. Was a big positive play for us. So we ran that play 5 times for about 110 yards that game. Should have ran it more. And the last one, another decent look. We just do a bad job finishing. Right, center's hand placement is a little all over the place. He's fighting, but he's fighting too much with his hands, and his feet aren't bringing a whole lot to the party. All right, Beaver cap. So 2021 Beaver cap. Now we just included the tight end. So cap for us tells the tight end he's blocking the backside C gap. And then now when we run it with cap, we block the front side tackle on with a lane block. And then now our backside tackle treats it like he's the backside of zone. So if we were running our inside zone play, if we ran 10 cap here, that would be who he'd be responsible for. So him here in cap, he's able to kind of tie that together where he now sifts through for -1. We still work the same look on the inside, and then the tight end works to cut off the backside C gap like he would on a split flow zone play. So we only ran this twice last year, only run it twice ever since we just put it in last year for this game, for the Tufts game, who gave us a definite 6-man box when we run 11 personnel here. Okay. And we knew we were going to get an over front, so these guys weren't allowed to Oscar it because we knew we were going to get a 3 technique, and we didn't want to screw with the pull of the tight end and the on block from the tackle on the front side. But so now it's a relatively easy block for the guard as he sifts through because the aiming point is the front side leg of the center. So he has great leverage on 54, who is our key. Now it's a tough block for the tackle backside because he has to really work down to get to -1. He does a really good job, the left tackle. And it ends up becoming a pile of shit. If we can get another foot out of our center of movement, we're probably going to have a chance to squirt through for an additional yards. We end up getting about 4 here on first down. I think this might have actually been the first play of the game. Again, on block from the tackle front side. Trap block, brings his hips too early from the left guard, number 67. And it's just some window dressing also. You know, it's almost like ships in the night. You know, we get a pull right and a pull left, so we can account for all 6 guys. But you can clearly see it's screwing with some guys, right? We get this guy downhill. We get this guy over the top. So something we're looking forward to researching a little bit more and getting a little bit more creative with in the future. And just one more look at it. One thing that may hold us back, at least for the next, if 66 here is still our center, is you're struggling to get movement when this thing is hitting so tight. You know, it's not a hit and slide type power play. This thing is pretty much hit A gap right now. Because we blocked this thing up really well front side. We love the running back to trust that high knee it and fit through that gap right there. All right, 2 back power. So on to 22 and 23 here. So moving away from 1 back power, and now this is true 2 back power. You know, I think probably everybody in America has this in their playbook. You know, it's just, it is a O-lineman's dream, a running back's dream. It's, you know, a play that's been run for a very long time. So 2 back power for us. The tight end is in line almost always when we run our 2 back power. And then our H is our fullback, goes from becoming a receiver to now in a different personnel group, he becomes our fullback. Now it is true down for everyone front side. Tight end is no longer responsible for blocking the defensive end man on. He's true gap down. And so now we have the C gap, the B gap, and the A gap covered by the front side lineman. Our key rule remains the same. So center's able to key it there to the Sam. And then now we kind of pick up we feel we pick up a bonus guy front side. Okay, so we work our guard tackle still on a gate to -1 so it doesn't screw with their rule. The tackle now is technically back from -2, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense just from the standpoint of he's further to the right and then the will as -2 is further to the left. But it ends up working out just because we tell them anything comes into your tracks, you take it. So what may happen sometimes is the mic flies hard over the top. The tight end with an open C gap is able to seal it. And then now these guys can stay really heavy on their double for the next linebacker who folds back in. Center, backside guard, backside tackle all stay the same as 1 back power. And then now our H, we want this guy to align as tight as possible. The widest he wants to be is B gap. So the widest he wants to be is splitting the difference between the guard and the tackle. His ultimate aiming point is the inside leg of the play side tackle, because we're expecting movement from the tackle tight end, and he wants to work inside out to kick this defender out. What he doesn't want to do is work on a straight line, have this guy get beat inside, get it spilled outside, and now we're in a world of hurt. So he wants to be tight, tight, tight to kick this thing out so this thing can hit inside of him. And then if we run it versus an odd front on the bottom left, now here's that blunt call I was talking about when we were looking at 2021 money. So now we feel like this guy's a threat. The team that week is a really hard chase team, and we just want to be able to take care of them. Center makes the blunt call, automatic down for the guard on the nose, center's back to the tighter of the 2, tackle helps secure, and then is out for the wider of the 2, okay? What it does sometimes in certain run schemes, the blunt call, is it will leave this guy unblocked. We have it taken care of here with our tackle tight end, but we just want to be able to take care of guys we know are definitely trying to chase the run down, let this guy try to work through the shit front side of all the down blocks. So we ran base 22, 23 versus Bowdoin probably about 25 times for probably about 150 yards. So we had a great deal of successes. We ran it primarily out of slot formation we call slot hit. So tight end wing with twin receivers to the left. And so they gave us a 4-man line, and they were trying to play force run support with just their corner and their safety. Didn't bump their linebackers over at all as the game progressed. And this is a great example of what I talked about with just trusting their rules and staying through their gaps. So to start off, there's our key. There's -1. So pre-snap, guard and tackle are responsible back to -1. This guard is pulling for the key. But as long as we stay gap responsible, oh, sorry, that's the next one I was thinking of where they exchange jobs. But as long as we stay gap responsible and stay down through our gaps, this is a great picture of these guys creating a wall front side, a kick out, and then now we have our puller through for a defender and our running back following straight behind. So even though our front side tight end right here, who is a tackle, we're in a heavy set right now, a true heavy set without a tight end. He is playing the tight end. He now just stays on his tracks. He ends up picking off our key linebacker because he's on his tracks. The guard is pulling to a spot, right? He's pulling to the spot of where the key linebacker is. He ends up blocking a corner, right? Which is obviously a great matchup for us. And we can have in the box a guard on a corner. Nice job by the running back tight, right on the inside hip. Splits it and is able to get vertical. Okay, not a killer kick out block from number 8 right here. He just kind of pirouettes on it. But if that guy wants to play it outside and around, then we'll be able to hit this thing tight, A-gap out. We get the example now of that Malachi call backside. So now it's a 3 technique. So center makes the Malachi call. So now they vice that to secure the 3 technique, because otherwise it'd be a tough block for the center. Once it's secured, then the tackle can surge back out on the defensive end. Exact same formation, exact same play. Really like the patience here by the right guard. Would love his pace and his physicality to be a little bit better, but his patience lets this thing unfold. So this is the one I was thinking of on like I was on the previous. There's our key. There's -1. They end up cross dog blitzing. So now this guy, the key, ends up in the A gap. So even though the backside guard's responsible for the key, he's in the front side guard's gap. So he takes him. They played us with a 9 technique all day. So a free release by our tackle tight end here. So he's able to climb down. He picked off the key linebacker or -1 probably every single time we ran it. And now we have a very similar situation here. With the wall front side, here comes the kick out. They actually adjusted here and gave us slightly a bonus defender over here because now they have a corner and a safety and the corner outside. But as long as we keep this thing tight, these guys don't want to play in the box. I think our guard actually makes the wrong decision because he goes for the corner, leaves the safety, but the running back keeps it tight. Keep it tight to the aiming point, press it vertical. Little pirouette in the end zone. Malachi again on the backside. So it's a very similar look. Skip that one because it's very similar as well. All right, here we got a look versus Bates. And we went true pretty heavy personnel here with 2 tight ends, a fullback, and a tailback. And now again, we're just following our rules, right? That's what I love about power and any gap scheme run. If you follow your rules, you're probably going to end up in a good place. There's our key. There's -1. We have a 2-eye in the gap front side, so he's gapped down for a text call to happen on the front side. So that's between our tackle, our front side tackle, and our tight end. He needs to be tight to the tackle. We do not want to make a text call if this guy's a gap player or a 6-eye on the tight end, because then the tackle's kind of working outward and creating a gap for any linebacker run through. So they did not make a text call. The guard made a gate call. The tackle echoed it. So they work back to -1. Now it's on the tight end to take care of the 6-eye or the gap player with his down block, of which he does a pretty good job of taking that guy across. We get the kick out on the D-gap defender who is pedaling out. So our fullback tries to make a little bit of an adjustment. Our pulling guard fits tight around. Again, he's really good at this, despite the fact that he's not physically very strong or athletic. The side he's pulling to is the side he hits with, allows the running back a clear vision lane to be able to hit this thing downhill. What gets us now, though, is our tackle doesn't come off from -1. We got a great look here. If the tackle can come off from -1, here's the defender flowing over in the hole. This is potentially a touchdown if we make that block. 6 has to fold in, or the corner may get him from behind, but we get a chance for a much bigger play. I think we actually do convert here, but we just got to be able to follow our rules to get back to -1. Don't love the tight end here backside. This is the first time now we've seen in this presentation a gap scheme with a tight end backside. He follows the same rule as the tackle. Okay, and we talk to our guys about situations. It's 4th and 2 right now. Tighten your splits, protect inside gap. Okay, so now this tackle is coming down to really make sure he secures this 3 technique on the Malachi with the center. The tight end now has to protect D gap to E gap. He can't just wheel on E gap right now. So he has to be able to step down in case 55 ran tight off 76's ass. He's got to be able to protect that gap before he surges back out. Here's a variation of 22-23 that we'll run. Because our center is a more athletic player and always not the greatest on a back block, we'll make a keg call. And what that means is the center's pulling. So all it does is it exchanges the jobs of the center and the backside guard. So we love to run it when we know we're going to have a 3 technique to the backside, because then it becomes a very simple base block for the center, a lane call for us. And then now the center is pulling tight. He's just going to get on the key a little bit faster. So he may have to hold his block just a little bit longer. We ran this split side as opposed to the tight end because we knew we were going to get the 3 technique away. So everything remains the same. Tight pull by the center. Just don't like his head placement, right? Side you pull to, side you hit with. If he's inside out right there, running back should be able to keep this thing and run right at the official and make number 8 chase him down from outside in. So that this thing bounces unnecessarily because we have a pretty good look at a play right in the A gap right there. The running back should do a better job of trusting it, but the center should also do a better job with his leverage as he works through to hunt that defender. Still gap hinges from the tackle and the tight end on the backside. All right, next variation, token. This is a great run play versus us, versus an odd front. We did run it a couple times versus an even front this year, just because I think any run play you have that's good versus one front, try to make it as good versus others as you can. So we ran it primarily in 2018 when we first put it in as a odd front play, but we started running versus an even front as well. So we'll talk about at the bottom first versus an odd front. So all we're trying to do is run 2-back power, right? That's what 22-23 tells us, whereas 20-21 is 1-back power. We're trying to run 2-back power from a 1-back set. So now what we have is essentially the tackle and the tight end replace the pulling guard as they work for the key. And then the backside guard becomes the fullback and he kicks out the D gap. So there are certain teams in our league that play an odd front, and we just feel like we have a numbers advantage against them and allow us to be able to run this play. So now when we run it versus a true odd front, we're going to get a text between the tackle and the tight end here, whether this guy is a 4-eye, head up 4, or a 5 technique. If he bumps out any wattage like a 6, we'll tell the tight end to take it and the tackle will just go. They are texting now to the key. The K in token, or the KE in token, is what tells them that. Center and the guard are caging this thing back to -1. They want to work vertical, right? And that's a game plan type thing of what their angle is, because some teams are guard readers. I think most teams are guard readers, and they're going to fly over the top once they see the pull. So we want the guard to stay square, of which we didn't do a great job of this year, to be able to pick off -1. Same rule for the tackle backside. Same rules for the receivers. Beauty of all these, pretty much all these plays for the receivers. All dig rules. The guard now is pulling to kick out the D gap. So for him, it's like counter, which I know we haven't gotten to, but it's kind of a crossover teaching and a crossover drilling period for him. Running back remains the same. We just kind of let the running back is just aware that this thing probably is going to hit a little bit wider. He wants to start A gap. There's a pretty good chance it's going to hit wide B to C gap outside of the tight end, but inside of the guard. If we run it versus an odd front up top, and we only have a couple of clips of these when we get to them. Now the tight end and the guard are the only ones now that are running the tagged play. For everybody else, front side tackle, front side guard, center, backside tackle, it is like 22 and 23 for them when we call token and it's an even front. We had an issue at the start of the year last year when we tried to run it versus an even front, where the tackle was like, well, it's token, so I have key responsibilities. Once it becomes an even front, he doesn't. He does not have key responsibilities. So it's 22-23 for everyone else. Now it comes down to communication between the tight end and the backside guard. If there's a 9, tight end has to yell the 9. He is now sifting through for the key, and the guard is kicking out the D gap. So it's really not much of a change from versus an odd front. Where it gets a little bit sticky is when they give you a 6-eye. And we may look at potentially changing this moving forward. But right now, with a 6-eye, the tight end makes the 6-eye call. He down blocks the 6-eye. The guard pulls around, gets vertical, and peeks his eyes inside for the key linebacker. If the key is there, he cleans them up. If this guy decides to get caught in the shit downhill, he can then turn his eyes downfield and pick up a bonus defender. We may potentially, moving forward, either make an exit call with token or just teach it like this versus a 6-eye, where we'll release this guy outside to go get the key, hopefully influence the D end a little bit, and get a kick out block here from our guard on the defensive end. So here it is. I think this is probably the one clip we have versus an even front. And, you know, this is symptomatic of just our physicality not being great versus one of the better teams in our league, because we actually end up pretty much on every single block. So it's an even front. So now for everybody but the guard and the tight end, it's 22 and 23. So 46 is our key. 8 is -1. So that means we're getting a gate between guard tackle to -1 right here. The number 8 linebacker. We're back on the 2-eye, protect B gap out to C gap. 6-eye. He is down blocking the 6-eye. Guard is pulling tight to get vertical, get his eyes to 46. So like I said, we end up actually doing that. The right guard does a bad job by getting his left shoulder involved and not staying square. He's unable to come off to 8 as he fits A gap. The guy doesn't end up making the play, but just obviously a block we want to make. Our tight end does a decent job here. Gets probably enough movement for what we need. Guard fits around, gets vertical, gets on 46. And then now, unfortunately, we have another freshman who weighs about $155, blocking a senior out here with his dig rules. And we just get overmatched physically and technique-wise. So we're on each block. It fits up the way we want it to versus an even front, even though it's not the best run play versus an even front. But just something that is a definite weight room clip, and actually something I sent to our guys about an hour ago when I was spinning through this before getting ready for it. All right, so now versus an odd front, which is how we want to run it. So we have a head-up nose. Middlebury reduces their defensive ends down a lot of the time to 3 techniques, so almost like a half bear look on certain sides. 33 is our key here on 23 token. 1 is -1. So now we get that text double team between the tackle and the tight end to the key. We get the cage between the center guard to 31. Guard is pulling now for the D-gap defender. He's got a great look here because this guy's off the ball, right? So this guy is not going to meet him in the backfield. He has a lot of time and space to be able to get to 38. Tackle's got a bit of a tough block here on a tight defender, almost like a 3 technique to be able to pick this thing off. We will sometimes give them the liberty to make a call back here to switch their responsibilities. If they make a gut call, the guard will block back and the tackle will take the guard's responsibilities. But try to be careful with how much liberty we give them to do that. Really nice job by 77, the front side tackle right here on the text. Immediately feels the 4 technique go outside, pushes vertical to make sure the tight end can secure. The key works downhill. He's able to pick them up. So we have our 2 down blocks front side. We're caging 59 again. That kid I talked about earlier, really good, really good defensive tackle in the league. Thankfully, he graduated. Just don't love the center second step here. Want him to be vertical, crosses over too much, loses his balance. Because we want to be able to allow the center to post this thing up, have the guard gallop down and stay square to help get movement so we can drive this guy back into the lap of 31. We're in too much of a hurry this past year on our cages. You know, we end up taking care of 59 and 31 has to undercut, but it just isn't a good look for us. Good pull around. Here comes 72. Comes around with really good speed. Just don't like the way he reaches, right? Run through that block. And then just to show the full picture, don't love this by 4 at all, right? He has dig rules. He's trying to dig out defenders that are inside of him. 38's gone. Continue to 29. Even if you get on his outside shoulder. Because now if we get on his outside shoulder right there, we're making the corner play the run. He's falling in with him, right? Let the running back come circle the field and make this guy have to change direction to come tackle the running back. So it's a 4 or 5 yard gain for us, but it could be a much bigger play with a little bit better effort from our Z receiver out there. Okay, good. We get another one versus an even front here. So versus an even front now with a 9 technique, not a 6-eye. So now the tight end makes the 9 call. Here's our key. He's on tracks to the key. We're caging back to -1, back on the 2-eye. Guard has a ton of time and space to be able to get to the 9. They add the bonus defender here, right? They slice in here. So now they have 7 defenders in the box to our 6. And so we coach the running back on that to understand who we can block and who we can't. So this is a really good job by 34 keeping this thing tight. Keep it tight in his gap. We get the Gape down block here by 77. The tight end gets on the key. The tight end can finish that block. We should be one-on-one with the safety. But 55, who's a good young freshman player for Gape, makes a good play, shedding our tight end, being able to make this play. But fits up pretty well against the front that we really don't want to run this play against. Although if we're going to run it versus an even front, best versus a 9 and not a 6. All right, good. So we get the example here now of the tackle taking the pull here. So now we have a 3 technique. So they made a gut call. So the guard blocks back on the 3. Tackle pulls around. And unfortunately here, the defensive end chases this thing down from the backside because we block this thing up very, very well. Good on our text block here. Take care of the defensive end and the key. Better by the guard, staying a little more square. Center keeps his balance a little bit better. They're blitzing here off the backside. So that's why this guy chases this down so hard, is they're bringing what we call a sooner blitz off the backside. But a really nice, good patience by the back here as he fits through, ultimately trying to work through the inside hit. Ends up being about a 5-yard gain, just a couple of steps away from making it a little bit bigger of a play. Okay, and then last one I'll show here on token. This is from 2018 versus a true odd front here with double 4 eyes. They actually reduce down almost to 3s. And this is where it gets a little bit tough for that tight end front side, even though, again, this is a tackle, because here's his key now, right? And we like to play versus an odd front to play 2021 money and 22 and 23 token against one another, right? So if they want to widen out this linebacker like Bowden was doing, well, then we'll just call money and man him, cage this thing back, and then we'll pull for a wide key linebacker. But if he's going to tighten down and be C gap or tighter, then we'll just call token, and we'll have what we have right here. Fits down, tight. Awesome job by the running back. Love this kid. Missed this kid from a couple of years ago. Tight, right? Hits his aiming point. High knees, short steps, fits through, presses vertical. Really good look on the front side by our tackle, our tight end, and then at least the aiming point by the guard. Not enough explosiveness through the block. I'll be quick on this one. Tower shovel right here, because it's really not a huge part of our playbook. Tower for us is front side power read. So now we're reading the front side C gap defender. And we have the option of either throwing the ball out to the running back or shoveling it underneath the tight end. It's become a pretty popular play in college football. Not something we have done a great job of with, so just not a huge part of our arsenal, but do have a couple clips for you. So for the beauty for the O-line is it stays the same. Right? For the O-line, it's exactly the same as 22 and 23. The tight end is now a line backside. He is going to take a shovel path underneath. Based off the ability of the kid, he may need to jab step away for timing. But if he's not the fastest kid in the world, he can just go right now. He wants to work flat down the line of scrimmage with his eyes to the quarterback. Quarterback now is going to take a drop back with his play side foot. So he'll drop his right foot back if he's a right-handed quarterback, and he will look eyes straight to the D end. If the D end squeezes, he's throwing the ball on the swing out to the running back. If he squeezes down, he's throwing where he isn't. If he feathers at all and works outside, then he is stepping with his left foot underneath, and you guys will see it on film, to shovel the ball to the tight end, who now essentially becomes our running back as he catches the shovel. The tower tag tells the receiver's front side that they are blocking number rules. So what that means is they're blocking their number from the sideline. That's the number 1 defender. That's the number 2 defender. So the number 1 receiver blocks number 1, number 2 receiver blocks number 2. So this is from 2018. We would screw around, and this is actually a receiver coming in, motioning in from the slot, and he takes his jab step away. And we actually run this one. I think I had it drawn up, so I apologize for not mentioning that. We'll also mesh the running back across as well. So now the running back is opposite. So instead of him running the swing, he is full mesh across. So it's almost like he's running a sweep type path. So he's flat across here. Quarterback is reading the defensive end. Think he ultimately makes an okay decision here because we're going to outrun 91. Where the issue lies is our number 2 receiver taking an awful angle and getting terrible leverage on 42. If he pins the outside shoulder in his number blocking rules, we're going to be able to get on the safety as the unblocked defender. Unfortunately, where the read is correct, probably got a great look to be able to shovel this ball underneath because we get a great gate here on the front side of our gap, back to 44. Guard pulls around, going to be able to get great leverage on the key. We should be able to crease that thing right at the bottom of the A in the middle of the field. That was another reason why this play hasn't been so great for us or at least 2 years ago, we weren't the greatest perimeter blocking team. We improved a lot this past year. So hopefully something we'll be able to do more of this year. Good look of it here. I think we've gained about 25 on this one. Another give again. We don't get the shovel. So versus an even front again. And again, one of my favorite things about this play, if we're able to do it more moving forward, is it's crossover teaching for the O-line. Easy crossover teaching. Okay, so end squeezes down here, flat-footed, give it. And 23 just happens to make a play here. We don't do a great job blocking or anything outside because the key linebacker actually is able to chase this thing down. Another thing I don't love about this play, out of specifically 2x2, is you don't have a guy to be able to protect the key because that number 3 is now the tight end on the shovel, or who would be the number 3 if he was front side. So now you just got to kind of outrun this guy. He gets too caught up with looking outside. We're able to crease this thing vertically. All right, last counter series. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. We're about an hour in now, so hopefully getting about another 10 or 15 minutes left as we get to our last 2 variations in our last gap run family. So now on 24-25, which is counter for us. Our base alignment for the running back is for him to align same side. So all of these are drawn up as 24 on the screen. So he's going to align same side. And as opposed to a same side power run where we don't want him to cross the midline, we want our running back to cross the midline here. We want him to take left foot, left foot plant, and then work tight down the midline to bend back to the call side. For the front side tackle, guard, center, and the backside tackle, it's power. Another great thing about the gap run scheme, in my opinion, is the crossover. So for them, it's power. So don't have to tell you guys any of the combos because they're all the same of what we talked about for the last hour. Now the switch is just between the guard and the tight end. So now the guard is working to kick out, which is very similar to his token path on 22-23 token, just a little bit more immediate because there's no tight end here, and it's a C-gap defender, not a D-gap defender. And now our tight end is pulling through for the key linebacker. Okay, so he is going to pull through and get through the inside hip of that play side guard to try to fit that thing up to the key. If, and I think we will probably have a couple examples on film, this defensive end squeezes tight off the tackle, the guard is taught to log the outside shoulder if he cannot kick out the defender. Tight end has to do a good job of reading that block of the guard because he will then need to bounce one hole wider and get his eyes up to that key linebacker as he works around. So here's a clip from, this is from 2018 right here. I might knock my computer over when I see the running back bounce it again because he probably should hit his head on the goalpost right here. But here we are running versus an even front. Key linebacker play side. There's -1. Gating, the 2-eye, back to -1. We're going to get a Malachi call between the center and the tackle here to secure the 3 before we hinge back out. Guard working to kick out the defensive end. And that's something we scout on that we try to tell them throughout the week for each game plan. You know, are these guys surfers? Do they surf down? Do they wrong arm? You know, how do they play it? Are they up the field so they can use the proper technique? And then the tight end is reading the block of the guard to fit through for the key. So we end up getting a squeezer. So the guard logs it. We get a great Gape block on the front side. Really nice Malachi. Love this from our center right here. Really physical. Fits around. The guard ends up almost blocking 2 guys. So the tight end kind of fits through and he's trying to look for work. So we'd love for him to get on his horse and clean up any trash right there on the on that overhang linebacker because 32 should be able to hit this thing and hit the toughs right on the goalpost. You know, so he just bounces this thing a little bit too far because we do a really nice job on the O-line of handling this thing, specifically with the front side guard, essentially taking 2 for 1. Okay, versus Middlebury here versus an even front, and they're screwing around with their linebackers, really trying to push him out of the box right there, which is fine for us because like all of our gap plays for the most part, this is an A-gap run play. So if you want to widen away from the A-gap, that's fine with us. Okay, so here we get a little bit of movement from them. So we do a really nice job by our guard tackle front side as we are working to gate this thing. The 44 is our key. We work to gate the 3 technique. He vacates. Tackle does a good job of allowing the D end to cross his face so he can overtake that. And then now we still end up 6 for 6, right? It may not be what everybody thought was going to happen pre-snap, where we would gate this thing back there, we kick out 41 right there, and then we pull through with the tight end for our key, but we still have 6 for 6. The numbers have not changed on the front side. So the guard ends up kicking out the key linebacker because he's in his gap, right? He's in his C gap. Tight end fits through and ends up taking -1. So he ends up taking the -1 linebacker because he essentially ends up in the key spot. Would love the running back right here, right, to be able to try to skinny through, but he ends up taking this thing out, and our quarterback actually ends up screwing him. Just 2 freshmen from 2 years ago. A freshman quarterback who's a very good player for us, and a freshman running back here who we need to be a great player for us as a junior next year. So just a really good job of their gap responsibility, specifically front side. 2 seniors there from 2 years ago, 54 and 75, of taking those guys through the gaps and then allowing it to unfold. Another look here where I think should probably be a touchdown. I don't know why he makes this kind of little bounce out right there. We gate this thing back, get the kick out, we pull through with the tight end, vertical, push that thing right up to the O. He's about 6 yards away. I think he's trying to run away from number 4, who is obviously an unblocked defender as a backside safety. But we blocked this thing up pretty well. Need better footwork from the center. Watch his second step. First step's okay, like a little more ground. Second step never gets down. Contact is made, and he is stuck on 1 foot, which is never a good position to be in. If we run, I don't think we have any examples. If we put the running back on the opposite side of the run, so if we're running 25 to the left here, if we align him on this side, we will have him jab step away for timing and for look purposes, for the defense. So he would jab if he was on this side with his right foot and then work back across down to his aiming point. Very good look here. We just don't finish blocks too well. On the backside, I believe it's our center again because he cuts on 73, almost blows out his ACL, and I think he kind of gets involved and the -1 linebacker. But our gate is good initially. Again, love this. This is a great job by the front side guard. That torque that he has of taking that guy into the A gap. He was really good at it a couple of years ago. We weren't as good at the guard spot this past year, being able to do that. But to take that thing into the A gap, allow the tackle to be able to set the wall, to allow for the kick out, allow the tight end to fit through, it's everything we want in that picture right there. Don't love the head placement by the tight end. Would love him to be inside out because he has the time and space to be able to do that. And then 42 actually ends up unfolding, -1 and 44. Both the box linebackers end up unfolding from their blocks and making the play. So we just got to do a better job, obviously, of finishing blocks. But schematically and initially, it's what we want. Okay, last couple of 24, 25, then we got one more variation, and then we'll wrap up for any questions. Okay, so now versus an odd front. Didn't talk about this much on the playbook page, but now we got to be aware when we run counter versus an odd front of what we call the alley defenders. You have your DNs, your nose, and then it's those linebackers from the outside, those OLBs, whether they're on the ball or not, and what their demeanor is. And we really teach our guys on the O-line about the alignment of the defensive lineman. Yeah, this guy may be somewhat close. This guy's a pretty loose 5, right? So is this guy really going to hell-bent blitz off the edge? Probably not. You put this guy in a tight 5 or a head-up alignment, sure. Now he's probably coming, and we can deal accordingly. But so now, without pressure off this edge because of the wide 5, 33 is our key. Here's -1. We really have a bonus guy here because we're not going to account for the out-of-box defender because we want to keep this thing in the A-gap. So now we have a bonus guy from the standpoint of our cage is to -1. Our tackle is also to -1. Kick out the C-gap, gap hinge, and then our tight end fits through for the key linebacker here. So just don't love our tackle kind of hanging on this thing, 77, because he muddies up the works. If he continues down all the way back and helps secure -1, that'll help our tight end be able to be inside out on the key, because I think it confuses the tight end as well. He should be able to hit that thing, 77, get his big ass out of the way. With him gone, we should be able to be through and one-on-one with the safety. If this guy was tighter and we were expecting blitz off this edge, we will tell the tackle to temper his footwork. So what he will do if he is expecting a cross face is he will slow down his footwork, get his first 2 steps in the ground, let this guy cross face, overtake, let this guy become the C-gap defender for the guard to be able to kick out. And we still have the numbers that we want because we still have the cage here back to -1. All right, last one right here, tug. Everything is exactly the same except for the jobs of the backside tackle and the backside and the tight end. So now they're just exchanging jobs, right? So now this is, counter tray, guard tackle wrap, guard tackle pull, whatever you want to call it. Now the tackle's pulling for the key, and the tight end is taking care of the defensive end on the backside. So all they're doing is exchanging jobs. That's all there is to this play. So I think we just got a couple of looks at it. And so we ran, when we ran this a couple of years ago, we held the defensive end with fly motion instead of a tight end. So that's another way that we handle this guy as opposed to having the tight end to be able to block this guy. Also helps influence the linebackers as well. Makes our gate block between guard tackle really, really easy for leverage on number 50 right here. You get the squeeze by 90. This is the second time we've seen tough squeeze. So we get the wrap there. Need a better wrap by the guard because he lets this guy get through too much, and the tackle kind of runs into it. Because what we would love is obviously the tackle to be able to get around to get up to that key linebacker, because then we would have all the numbers accounted for. So the guard really kind of screws us here by not being able to press vertical and be able to log that defensive end. It's a great job by the tackle being physical, but we talk about blowing anything up in the hole, but it just doesn't allow us to be successful. Again, with fly motion, this is a good one here that we end up running. We get the log again by 72. Would like 77 to read it a little bit faster. 32 just says, screw you, I'm just going to go anyway. He was usually very good at doing that, good with his feet. So he ends up outrunning it. But would love 77 to be able to read this thing faster. Get the log, get around, be able to log this thing as well. Let him take it vertical off your hip, take the weak shoulder of the safety now on the edge of the box. Much better by our center here. He hops a little bit, but at least he's gaining ground with his feet. And you'll notice here, see how much less overextended he is? It's a huge issue of his because he is a little bit undersized, although he is a pretty good player. He just is usually a little bit too far overextended and has his knees over his toes, and he's like way too far. Ooh, I guess I got one more. All right, last one. Q tug rhino. So for guys who are a quarterback run team, we're not a huge quarterback run team. We will run 24 and 25 Q tug rhino. Bit of a mouthful, probably a way we can shorten that down, but we actually haven't run this play since I think 2017. So a couple of old clips coming here. So for the O-line, it's tug, right? They are just running tug. Where the difference happens is with the quarterback and the running back. So we can do this with mesh as well, where the running back will be same side as the run tag. So everything is drawn up as 25 Q tug rhino. If we put the running back front side, he would mesh across just like it was the tower shovel, and the quarterback would have his eyes to that backside C-gap defender. Okay, so now involved in the quarterback run here. If this guy feathers out at all, we're going quarterback run. If he squeezes when the tackle leaves, he'll toss that thing out to the running back, and now we should have pretty good numbers with our receivers number blocking out the backside. So we got a couple clips here versus Williams from a couple of years ago. A lot of different players on the screen now. Okay, so we go 25 Q-tug rhino here. They're in a relatively funky alignment. They used to align to trips Williams, and they still kind of do very, very strangely. Their Mike linebacker right now is out of the screen over to the trips. So we felt we had a really good look to be able to run this play because we knew we were going to get rush off this edge. So this guy this defensive end would spark into the B gap, allow the tackle to overtake. The guard now can work vertically to be able to help a hard sparking 5 technique, or cage this thing with the center, and because their responsibility is all the way backside. So be really, really heavy there. Get the kick out on the blitzer from the guard, and then get the wrap for the key linebacker. So we mesh this thing. He sees that he's up the field because they're blitzing, right? So they're bringing double-edged blitz off this side. So he is sparking opposite. So the quarterback sees that. We go to get the log from the guard. Number 60 doesn't do a good enough job. We end up being able to get to the key linebacker on essentially a kick-out type path with 75. And then now, as they're a big safety support run team, Williams, big cover 3, Phil with the safety on blitz, we've started taking care of this, what we call a glance, which is a 5-step post, and it'll be a read. Not quite on this type of run scheme, but on other type of gap and zone run schemes where we'll replace him. So if he fills down, we'll just run a 5-step post. There's a lot of space for us to be able to hit an easy 15 to 25-yard gain. And then just last one here. Now it's 24 Q-tuck Rhino, so the running back will be meshing left. Here's a pretty good look of what we're trying to accomplish now. The cage on this with the center and the guard working back to -1, who's flowing with the running back. That's number 17. Get the kick out on the blitzer by the guard. The key, 17 being -1. The key now is also following the running back as well, so we get great leverage as the tackle fits through. Okay, and we run through for about an 8 or 9 yard gain. Just want to do a better job with our number blocking all the way to the outside. Guys, I really appreciate you sticking around for about an hour and 15 minutes of talking some gap run. I would love to say you can come down to Colby and talk through any of this stuff that you want, but obviously we can't do that right now. But once everything hopefully opens back up in the summer and in the future, the top number's my office phone, bottom number's my cell phone, my email there as well. Really appreciate you guys, again, taking the time, and hope everyone's doing well and healthy, and thank you.
If you guys want to come on and have some questions, we can do that if Coach has time. I know I got a couple, Coach.
Yeah, I got time, Coach.
If you don't mind. One was on that shovel play. What's the quarterback like? What's his physical key on the defensive end? What's he looking at to decide whether or not to give it on the stretch or the shovel underneath?
So we really simplified it a couple of years ago. We used to get all into like head in front, head behind, his shoulders turn this way, his shoulders square. We really try to break it down as easily as possible to, can he tackle the running back? Just because otherwise you get into the minutia and it's like paralysis by analysis. So we really just try to tell him, can that guy tackle the running back? And it's, again, not a play that I'd love to say I'm an expert on it. I don't think I am, just because we haven't run it a whole lot. But it's usually for us when we watch it, we pretty much know and can kind of tell the quarterback, hey, if we run shovel this week, based off how their DNs play it, expect a lot of shovel or expect a lot of give to the running back.
Yep. Another one I had too was sometimes you guys have the running back crossing the face, and sometimes you just having him attacking straight downhill. Do you have a preference, or do the running backs have a preference? And when you do it, how do they know which one they're doing?
So to that last point, we tag it strong and weak. So all of our formational tags, we're not like we don't have 2 words for the same formation. Like, for example, I know some people have like lake is the formation to the left, and then rake is a formation to the right. We are trips left, trips right. So if we say trips right weak, they know to align to the left. I think they like probably different preference. I think they probably like being to their default to the backside more, just because I think some guys struggle athletically to get to the midline and then bend it to the backside. But sometimes it's just better for us from a schematic standpoint. Like if we're trying to invite blitz into that side, so they gotta live with it sometimes.
Coach Goff, Coach Lip, you guys got anything?
Yeah, I just want to ask, you talked at the end about that glance route, kind of to, take advantage of a safety rolling down. And you said you probably wouldn't, it was a tug when the guard and tackle are both pulling. You probably wouldn't run it with that just because there's so much movement, I'm assuming you're saying. But to Mike's question, and it kind of ties in with mine, so like that back, are you trying to run the glance to the side the play's going to? So is power right, you want the receiver on the right, one man glance to that side and take advantage of that?
Great question, BL. Thank you. Good to see you. So it's backside for us, and I actually have a couple of examples if you guys don't mind if I pull them up.
I'd love to see it.
It was in my presentation, but I kind of skipped through because I knew I was being a little bit long-winded.
Well, don't skip any pass game stuff. Matt.
Yeah, love it.
Those glance routes. Good.
So glance for us, it's backside. So if we're running 22, we're running power to the right, the glance is going to be to the backside.
Okay.
This was the first year that we ran glance, and it was very successful for us. We may look at putting it to the front side as well, but right now it's just the backside. To me, if you're running the ball to the right and the quarterback has to mesh with the running back who's on his right while looking to his left, I think that's really hard. So we did not do that once this year. So every time we're running a glance, and I'll pull the clips up here, he is opening to mesh with the running back with his eyes to the side that the glance is on.
Right. So if you were running counter right, your back's on the right to start. So you couldn't
So-
run glance on the left because he's opening right. To, okay.
Correct. So if we did that, we'd have to tag the running back so he was on the same side as the glance.
Okay. Yep. And what do you got? Let's say you had trips right. Like, are your dig rules a part of all your run game? Are you ever like, trying to run bubble off that, smoke off that? Like, what do you? Is it always dig rules for the front side running back receivers?
So it's always dig rules for them unless tagged otherwise.
Okay.
So if they hear tower or rhino, they know that now there's potentially a perimeter play, so they block number. And then if we want them to run any type of bubble screens, smoke screens, now screens, we tag that with a specific play.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So here's our glance. I got 2 examples of us throwing it. So right now we're going 22 token Z glance. Yep. So now running backs to the left. So our glance is coming from here. He's just going to run a 5-step post. And the read for the quarterback is the safety to this side. If it's with that 2-high safety, if he fills the box, he's going to throw to replace. If he doesn't, he's going to give the ball. Fills down, throws the post. Yeah. And so like there are teams. I saw Walt Bell from UMass talk about this at the Big New England last year, which is why we put it in. And he had it with the running back on the other side. I mean, their quarterback must have a very flexible neck, as he's meshing from the right and having his eyes back to that side.
I'm a Florida State fan. Walt Bell was there for a couple of years, and he was terrible. So maybe don't call him in a side. Terrible.
Well, hey,
was pretty bad too. So
he's an offensive guy, and they were like historically the worst defense in ever at UMass.
I really enjoyed that watching how bad they were. I really.
And then so here's another example. Now we ran into our X, which it's primarily a 3-by-1 play for us. Although I did like him when we ran it out of 2-by-2 out of 12 personnel in that last one. But now it's just out of true 3-by-1. Oh, and he did not throw this one because he probably felt that he had a press here with a tough release for the receiver, and they're like essentially kind of clouding the coverage. With this is actually their corner and this is actually their outside linebacker. So
what is this coverage?
Right. This, I don't know, any of the Bates guys still here? Do they want to tell us? This kid's our best receiver, 13. Okay. So probably about halfway through the year, teams started to realize that, and so they started to roll coverage towards them. So I think our quarterback just got spooked by 22 being there.
In the next kick, you guys getting called, or anybody getting called for lineman downfield? Because if he does pull this and throw it, there's like 3 or 4 guys that are 4 yards downfield.
We didn't get called a single, and we only ran. We have another RPO that we ran a decent amount this year. So combined, we probably threw 25 of them, not a single time.
Yeah,
we haven't gotten called once yet.
This is 1 yard, but
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Never gets called.
And we've probably I bet we've run 50 of those in the last 2 years, and we haven't got called once.
We hit one of our guys with the ball, and it didn't get called. How's that? Our left tackle was like a downfield on the backside of like inside zone. He was uncovered, so he was really working hard. And we tried to throw a slant, and it deflected off his shoulder. And I was like, "Uh-oh!" And they were like, "Didn't even throw it." I was like, "We just hit him with the ball 4.5 yards downfield, and no penalty." So,
Coach Goff, to your question in the chat. Embarrassingly, and I'm a triple option guy. I played in triple at Springfield and then coached in it for 3 years, 1 at Maine Maritime, 2 at Springfield. We were about 3 or 4 games in, and we were probably about 60% pass, which is just different than what I'm used to, and being an O-line coach and a guy who's a run first type of guy. But I think that probably also leaned into the fact that we were a 2-7 football team this year, and we opened with an 8-1 team, a 6-3 team, and a 4-5 team. But still, we were down in the first 3 games we were playing, so we threw a lot more. But probably ended up relatively close to 50-50, just because when our schedule kind of evens out competition-wise, and we played Bates and Bowdoin at the end of the year, we ran the ball 50 times against Bowdoin. And so I think we finished like 47-53, 47% run, 53% pass. Would love to be as balanced as possible,
Right. What offense did you run when you were at Springfield?
Triple option.
Who was your coach?
So Mike DeLong was the head coach when I played there. Mike Sarasulo was the offensive coordinator and the O-line coach. And then when I went back to GA, same situation. Coach DeLong left. Coach DeLong retired 2 years after I left.
He was really
Coach
tight.
DeLong's the man.
My father played at Springfield College and also coached there as well.
Yeah. What years? What years did he coach?
I want to say it was back in the late 70s.
So he was. So did he get a chance to coach with Coach Hollick?
I'm not 100% sure. The only
You might have
coach
just missed him.
knew that he had a connection with there was Mike DeLong.
Yeah, great guy. Was great to play for, great to work for. He was supposed to get inducted into the Springfield Hall of Fame, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, and they obviously had to postpone that.
He used to come to coach at Camp Touchdown at Maine Maritime Academy when I played high school football here in Maine 30 years ago.
He was the head coach in 77, 78, or 78, 79 at Maine Maritime.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I didn't know that.
Well,
That makes sense with the connection.
Hey, Coach, one other question. I didn't really notice every clip, but I saw in a couple, you have your guards in a 3 and your tackles in a 2. Is that pretty standard for you guys?
Yeah. The only time we'll tell our tackles if they're comfortable to be in a 3 is in like when it's an obvious run situation, when it's goal line or 4th down or 3rd and 1. The only kid who really liked to do it was the kid from 2 years ago, 54, who was on a lot of the film from a couple years ago. He would do it, but no, our tackle, they were all pretty comfortable in a 2-point stance.
The Kennebunk kid, wasn't he?
Yeah, 54 and 77.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shane was awesome. And like I said earlier in the presentation, he coached running backs for us this year, and then he got a job with the Colts. He's out in Indiana right now. He started at the end of the month, although he's kind of, I think, starting a new job working from home essentially.
Right.
And then Trevon as well, who was great for us for 4 years. Those are 2 great guys for us.
You can always count on good in the lobster bowl, good lineman from Kennebunk.
That's right, baby. Coach
That's
Raff,
always
another Springfield guy. Coach Raff, getting him coached
Yes.
up.
That's awesome.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. It's good.
Yeah.
Very good
No
stuff.
problem, guys. Appreciate you sticking around.
And good luck
Yeah,
this year.
thank you.
Hopefully we have a season.
Thanks, guys. Hope to see you all soon.
Take
All
care.
right, take care.